pretty good.
Good deal.
I went down the rabbit hole for just a second here.
Yeah.
So on the ESPN website, it has, like, if you look at the teams like NFL draft results, if you scroll down a little bit on the left, there is a section that has different years, all the way back as far as 2009.
Oh, yeah.
So I went back 10 years. Why not? So 10 years, draft was 2013. Who picked first?
Oof.
If you get this right, I'm going to be impressed.
2013.
Bro,
I think of possible. So about 10. Let's see. Man. Don't think that's the year. For some reason, I'm thinking Chiefs, but I don't think that's Eric Fisher year.
You nailed it. It was Eric Fisher.
Was it?
Yeah. This is the difference that 10 years makes. This was the top 4 picks. Chiefs, Jags, Dolphins, Eagles. I bet you, and you can't name all those picks right now that you know what draft it is, can you?
So we got Chiefs, Jags. Luke Jokel?
Yep, that's right.
All right, then Chiefs, Jags, Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that one might be a little tough. I know who the Eagles. Eagles is Lane Johnson.
Yep, you nailed that one too. So, dude, still 3 out of 4. That is insane.
Is it Jake? No, that's not Jake Long, is it? That's
nope.
too. No, that's further back.
Yeah. I couldn't even ballparked it. Okay, so.
Oh wait, no, I think I might have it.
You do not. There's no way.
Is it Mingo?
No.
No.
Mingo went 6th.
Oh, okay.
Barkevius Mingo, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
I have a makeup question for you. It was Dion Jordan.
Oh, see, I knew it was one of those flop edge rushers.
Flop edge rushers. Yep, no, that was exactly right. All right, so for the makeup question, who was the first quarterback taken?
Ooh, I should know this.
You should.
EJ Manuel.
Yes. Dude, this draft class of QBs, this was not the year.
No. And
EJ Manuel went, what was it? 16th.
And the crazy part is, I'm pretty sure they traded up or either traded into the first round. I want to say the Bills didn't have a first round pick, and they traded up or either traded into the first round to draft EJ Manuel.
Oh, they should not have done that. That was
no
bust, dude. Geno Smith's in the league, which is good. Mike Glennon just got out of the league a couple of years ago. They were quarterbacks taken in the 3rd round, the 2nd round. Travis Kelce, first pick of the 3rd round. Man,
pretty solid pick, I would say.
Yeah, it's just crazy to look back. I mean, 2010. Can you think about what that was? Gerald McCoy was the number 1 ranked prospect.
So that's Sam Bradford.
Yep.
No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then Trent Williams is up there. Trying to think of the kid from North Carolina that got picked because he went to the. No, I'm thinking different.
Why did you?
But so I know Gerald McCoy's up high. So is Trent Williams because it was the year that the 3 OU boys went. 3 in the top 4. Who had the 2nd pick?
Well, my 2009. Hold on, my computer the stupid ads are like.
Oh yeah,
pushing everything down. So I'm clicking on the wrong things. This is 2010.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why it was mixing up. So 2010. So you had Sam Bradford, McCoy, and Trent Williams, all 3 Oklahoma top 4 picks. Has that ever happened?
No, and it may never happen again.
Absolutely incredible draft prospect. We got 3 of the top 4. They didn't win the championship that year. They lost to Florida.
Yeah. And there's a couple, like if DeMarco Murray was healthy that year, I think they probably would have beat Florida, but that's here or there. But I mean, Sam Bradford, if they would have actually gave that guy ever an offensive line early on in his career, he may have had a shot in the NFL. But that offensive line was so bad that he was getting hit so much. I mean, he broke the rookie record for most, yards and touchdowns in a season. And then after that, they couldn't keep him upright, and a couple ACL injuries, shoulder injury here and there, and that was it.
Yeah, really unfortunate. But Yeah. Anyway, sorry, a rabbit hole right there. 5 minutes. There you go. Never getting it back. Sorry, everybody, but we quizzed Tubby on some 10-year-old draft knowledge that he nailed.
I mean, I like my draft.
You do. You're not messing around. This is why your rankings matter. We'll be interested. We're going to get into that here a little bit in the podcast of the rankings. But before that, I think we can hit a couple of other notes, news, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say I gave a grade to every single team.
Okay. So, well, we'll get into that. I didn't have enough time to do that, but I wouldn't trust my grades as much as I would trust yours anyway.
I had a good time. I had to at least get one more thing in right before, since, we got a whole another year until the draft comes back.
It's true. But don't worry, you get the USFL to look forward to.
Yeah, no.
Do they have a draft every year? You could get excited about that.
They did have a draft. I know they did this year.
Nice.
But, yeah, no.
Yeah, I saw that there were 2 XFL players that were eligible for it, and they kept cutting into them. Did you see that in the broadcast? So at least the one that I had here in KC, they kept cutting into some of the. It was on Saturday before the playoff game, the Roughnecks versus the whatever team it is,
the Renegade.
Yeah. And they kept cutting in on this kid. He's like, and the little thing on the bottom of the screen said he's one of 2 players eligible for the NFL draft this year, and like he's just watching his phone the whole time before a playoff game. I was like, yeah, sorry, man, it doesn't look like you're going to get drafted. I don't know if he did. I don't remember who the kid was, but
no.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Hey, Big Game Bob got it done. Just saying.
That's what he does, man. I was starting to question that team. They didn't have a good quarterback early on, and they've righted the ship. What happened to St. Louis?
I don't know, but the Bob, he went out and got his quarterback. He went and traded for Perez, and Perez came in. He's been that difference maker for the Renegade. Gotta love it.
Go figure for Big Game Bob.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he does.
Yeah. So you, like a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the NHL playoffs. And what happened with your Bruins, man? We thought they were having the best season ever, and here they are, gone.
Hey, they ain't my Bruins. I'm still my team's still in it. The Stars, they got the first round win, but man, I'm sorry if there's any Bruins fans. I know we have a couple, Matt and Kyle Luongo. They are big Bruins fans. That's kind of sting. I mean,
65, 12, and 5 losses in overtime, and
yeah,
you're done.
Yeah, first round. And the crazy thing is, this is the team that everyone's like, oh, they win it all. It's the greatest team ever.
Yeah,
and lose game 7, giving up a goal in the final minute of the third quarter, and then that goal in overtime.
Yeah.
It just, the goal, it was like the dude fitted into the tight corner.
Yeah.
Right past his own defender, or his own, his own guy, and right over the goalie had no clue. Barely moved.
The thing I think is the worst is just that 3-1 lead, man. You get a 3-1 lead in the playoffs, and you got to close it out in game 5. They did, and they lost in overtime too. So, and they just gave up too many goals in the end. I mean, 4-7, 4. And then all the ones before that, it was either 1 or 2 in the wins, and the big loss, it was they just had no goalie play, which is surprising when you win 65 games in the regular season, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, we got no goalie play. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you got to put them up there with all some of those greats that just never won. I mean,
what is
the Golden State Warriors back 15-16 win 73 games, don't win.
At least they made it further.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Most of these teams on the list, they actually at least made it to the championship round. Mm-hmm. Either it's finals or the Super Bowl. Like the Patriots are another one. Go 18-1. Lose one game,
and they lost
Giants
3 games on their home ice. I know that home ice doesn't really mean the same thing when it comes to hockey, but still, like, that is brutal. Even the home fans, just every time we're here, we lose. We lose.
Yeah, it's got to sting. Got to sting, especially with that regular season you had. The most wins, most points, most goals in a single season, and get bounced in the first round by the Florida Panthers.
I know. Well, I mean, you know what Florida is like with their hockey.
Yeah.
Just losing. Yeah. So you got that. Your Stars, though. How about that?
Hey. They're looking pretty solid.
Yeah. I like the fact that New Jersey and the New York, the Devils and the Rangers are playing each other, and it's going to go to Game 7. I do like that.
Yeah, I mean,
it just seems like it makes sense.
been some good ones. You had the Avalanche and the Kraken last night, Game 7 also. Defending Stanley Cup champions out also, along with the number or considered possibly the greatest team ever. Both of them bounced in the first round.
Yeah, and Seattle's second year of existence already doing damage, kind of like what Vegas did early on. So, and the Edmonton Oilers, didn't they win theirs too? Yeah, they did. So look at that. Still Canada's representing well.
Yeah, got the Maple Leafs. They got their first series win in 19 years.
Oh, good for them. Good for them. Yeah, and it's time to see Tampa Bay not win. I didn't enjoy ever seeing them. I don't understand why Tampa Bay has all these teams. I guess because they're, it's a big area, lots of people there, but no one is from there.
No one is from there.
Just saying. You tell me someone who's from Tampa Bay, and then I'll believe it. But I've never met anyone from Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I've never
been there. I moved there. Well, I got an uncle. He moved there last year, and I don't really. That's what I'm saying. And then I liked it. So in the show notes we put today, baseball, and we'll get to a little bit. The state of Missouri has a combined record, I think, of 17-42 or 16-42.
Sounds about right.
Dude, I'm not wearing my Cardinals jersey today. I'm wearing my custom made from my wife did this. It's the House Bears. It's a little softball league type jersey here. A little made up one. Because you know what? I can't wear my Royals. I can't wear my Cardinals either. It's a disaster.
Yeah, man, it's been a rough start.
We'll get into it. We'll save something before. We'll get into it because I got a whole thing. So how about this? Let's start with Alabama. Spring games happen, so Alabama has a quarterback. I don't really have a whole lot of confidence with Tyler though. Buchner.
Yeah,
Buchner. I'm not a huge fan of him.
Me neither. I mean, I guess there's one good aspect to it is that Buchner did play for Tommy Rees at Notre Dame, the new Bama offense coordinator. So at least it means that he didn't play great, but at least he knows the system. But I mean, I didn't have very much confidence in, Milroe either, being the starter.
No,
I thought Ty Simpson would probably take the reins, but I didn't watch it. Everything you hear from is, the Bama spring game, both quarterbacks looked rough.
Yeah.
And so how much you can, go off of that says something, you're like, I don't know. But when you have Nick Saban on ESPN draft night and you're like, oh, you just got Tyler Buchner, what's going on with the quarterback situation there? And he goes, well, we gave them a chance. We had the spring game. Neither of them took the reins, and we figured we had to go do something.
Yeah. Well, to their credit, they did. I mean, they did it very quickly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't like him in Notre Dame, and I don't think if you're going to go to the SEC, he's going to do much better. It's going to be tougher defenses, quicker speeds, and so I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we can talk more on, once football, college football comes around. But
I think it's going to play a huge deal.
Yeah,
thinking of the regular season.
I think there's a good chance that you may see a down year from Alabama. Back-to-back seasons where you don't make the college football playoffs is a very real possibility.
Is this the beginning of the end?
Hey, it might. You never know.
You never know.
You never
know when it starts. You know when you're there, but you never know when it starts.
Yeah, it can slowly creep up on you. So, yeah, it could be. I mean, I'm not ready to write Nick Saban off yet, after a couple seasons. But, if this is something we see back, maybe 3-4 seasons in a row, then maybe there's a chance that we're seeing the Nick Saban era finally, coming to an end. Probably not finally for the Alabama fans. They're probably not ready for that, but there could be a possibility that maybe he's just losing touch with some of it. Even though they do a great job recruiting, but the last few years, the quarterback has been the one position that you have to either recruit really well. And then said, I thought Ty Simpson could be a good quarterback. And so maybe there's still something there.
More so than who else they
Milroe.
have.
Yeah.
Milroe. Thank you. I can never remember.
Yeah. And then they got Holstein. He's a, true freshman. Or either you either got to recruit them really well, or you have to get you a big transfer in the transfer portal. And they weren't able to do that. Thought maybe they could take a shot and go out and get Devin O'Leary, someone, like NC State guy who has had good experience, had a bad year, down year last year, dealt with some injuries, but a guy that a lot of people looked at, if he was in last year's draft, could have possibly been the number one quarterback taken last year, and thought, okay, if he's healthy and does what he's done the last few years, could be a top 10 pick this year.
Yeah.
So they weren't able to do that. Kentucky ended up, getting him over, a bunch of big teams. Notre Dame, I know, was in on him. I think Alabama was in on him. Florida was in on him. He goes to Kentucky out of all places. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was going to say Will Levis, the success there, and he was, at least to Will Levis's credit, he wasn't the only one who didn't get drafted day one that was in the green room.
Yeah, that's true. There's a couple guys.
It happens.
Yeah.
Have you watched any NBA playoffs?
No.
Okay, so we're on a dangerous slope. I'm just going to say this real quick. So we already aren't a huge fan of the way they play the NBA. But I will say we just saw an 8 seed, a 7 seed, a 6 seed, and a 5 seed all win. A 5 over 4, not a big deal. 6 over 3, not as big of a deal, but to see an 8 and a 7 seed both win out. And how many of us thought that legitimately the Warriors weren't going to beat the Kings?
I mean, there's a lot of people that I just didn't say legitimately. I know there's a lot of people wishing that the Kings were going to win, but
yeah. Welcome Alejandro to the chat, man. I love the Leroy Jenkins. It's classic. Do you remember that video, man?
Yes.
Leroy. It was so good. So on here, so here's the thing I was going to say about the playoffs is when you have this, they're just proving that the regular season doesn't matter. And so already we have people who are not playing every single game. They're going to be playing fewer and fewer games now in the regular season.
So the one thing that has blown my mind so far this postseason is the amount of stars, if you want to call them, that have sat out due to injuries. And I'm like, I get, like Kawhi, they said it was just a knee sprain, but it ended up being a meniscus tear. So that one I can, understand. But you got guys like De'Aaron Fox, who fractured a bone in his left thumb on a shooting hand, still out there putting up 30 points a game. But you have a sprained knee, Embiid, or I have a hurt back, and Giannis sits out a couple of games. You're in the playoffs. Yeah, play. You say, oh well, if it was, there's always the excuse during the regular season. Oh well, if it was the playoffs, I would play through it. Well, then play through it. You're in the playoffs now. Play through it.
Dude. This is why it's slippery slope.
I'm telling you, yeah, these guys are making millions, but I played 3 years with the torn meniscus. You can play a few games if you have to. If I have a shot at the championship, why not?
Oh yeah, and at this point, like I said before, we're getting to this tipping point where they're like, "Listen, I want to be healthy next year. Why are you playing the game? Oh, it's just for money because it's fun.
Yeah,
okay. Well, that's fine.
You're playing for next year when you're in the playoffs right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
and even if you're like, listen, we are so outmatched, there's no chance we can win. The Thunder, when they were playing the Lakers that one year, that first year they were so outmatched. You know how much they learned by actually competing in that series. And the next year they made it further. They didn't make it all the way. They learned, and that's just my biggest frustration. Is all these people, all these teams are just no, I don't want to play anymore. Gilbert Arenas had an interview on I saw the video of it on some podcast. I can't remember which one, but he talked about. He's like, no man, these guys. He's like, I've been to some practices in the NBA today, and it's not the same. He's like, we practiced. He's like, now it's like a shoot around, some light drills, stuff here, stuff there. He's like, but now he's like, if I had an off day, it's not an off day. I'm still I'm putting work in. Either I'm shooting around, I'm doing bleacher work, running up and down, and all that extra stuff. He's like, I do it after games. These guys now, they don't do that. They don't have to. One, and unfortunately, I think sports science has gotten too far into the world of sports, and it's really kind of hurt it a little bit. It's almost like how recently have you been to a Chick-fil-A?
Can't tell you. It's been a few months, I would think.
Well, so you know that the epitome of like quick customer service has been Chick-fil-A in a drive-thru lane.
Oh yeah,
like it's so stinking full, it's huge, but you're like, I'm gonna be in and out in 5 minutes. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Compare that to a Taco Bell drive-through line at like 12 p.m. on a Friday or 12 a.m. on a Friday. Right? You're like, I'm going to be in here for 25 minutes for my one taco. It's fine.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Absolutely. And like I said, you see a lot of these. Like they take pictures of in game or in practice, and all they're doing is shooting.
Yeah,
we're having shooting competitions and stuff like that. Okay, cool. Are you actually practicing? Are you actually trying to get better?
Yeah.
Are you working with each other? You ain't giving yourself any chance to build any, continuity with your guys, or, get in game shape with some, which is big thing. Some of these guys, besides this year, every year Lucas comes into the league and they call him Fat Luca because he's out of shape because he's not putting in the work to get game ready or, be game ready at the beginning of the year. And it's like, where's the preparation?
Well, I know that's my thing though. The numbers, the analytics and stuff. They're like, well, don't do it because you'll make it so they're not fresh. And with Chick-fil-A, they have a drive-through, they have a curbside, you can go inside, and that was like, oh, this is great. And then they kept saying, well, what about those people who order on their mobile app and they don't want to go in the curbside, they don't want to go inside? Let's have a mobile drive-through called the mobile through. But let's also put it next to the drive-through. And now dude, it's too much. They've overdone it to now it's bad. And it's the same thing that baseball did. It's the same thing that basketball is doing. And if you're not careful, football can do this too. Football is so, it's a well-oiled machine. They're doing it right. I think that's what one of our listeners, Perry, said last week when he was in the chat. He was just like, listen, you just can't. Football just knows what they're doing, and they're doing it right.
Yeah.
So we got one guy, Alejandro, in the chat said that he's got the Celtics for the championship. He's going for Boston.
I mean, I wouldn't bet against it.
Right. I still lean right now towards Denver. I almost said Minnesota on accident, but Denver Nuggets. But we'll see. I don't know. I think the harder road right now is going to be for Boston to get there than Denver.
Maybe. I mean, it depends on how much Embiid plays.
That's true. It's true.
I mean, he's already out game one.
Yeah.
He's out, at least one, maybe two more games. I don't think there's any shot that Philadelphia has it beating Boston without Embiid. Embiid ain't on that court. They probably don't beat.
Oh, absolutely.
Boston.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And they say it's worse than what they were saying. It was just a knee sprain, but whatever that is, I mean, come on.
Figure it out, man. Clearly, go do something else to get stronger.
I mean, just get on the court. I mean, you can play through it. Trust me, you can.
Yeah.
It may hurt a little bit. You can play through it.
Figure it out, man.
Been there before.
Yeah, you've done it. So in game 7 against the Kings, did you see the like jersey setup that Curry had? So he had a long sleeve, like Under Armour type shirt with long sleeve white, and then it's short on the other side. So on the non-shooting hand is that way. I wonder how many kids are going to wear that next year.
Yeah, it's going to be the new
look. I would be tempted to do it. I prefer to wear long sleeves when I play basketball now, but
okay.
I don't know about one sleeve.
I've done the shooter sleeve, so I mean,
12% cooler automatically. You got to wear it.
Yeah,
dude.
I think it automatically elevates your game a little bit.
It does. Do you remember what I used to do in high school when we played basketball? Because I had the sleeve thing too. And so I didn't have money to go buy a sleeve. So I just took my 2 football arm shiver things that were popular. Remember Roy Williams wore those at the Lions for a while? And I would just overlap them. It was perfect. You couldn't even tell.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Dude.
I remember I took birthday money and it was like, someone gave me birthday money and I was like, I know what I'm getting. I'm going to get me one of those McDavid shooter sleeves with the elbow pad and everything. I didn't
like the pad, man. I didn't want the pad. But yeah, I remember yours was white, wasn't it?
No, mine's black.
Whose one did someone have a white one?
Yeah, someone had a white one. I can't remember.
But yeah, I remember the pad was the other thing. Yeah, I want the pad, man.
Hey, it came in handy, for about a month because I don't remember if you remember we're playing football in the gym. We had the carpet floor, and I dove and I slid across the carpet and had that giant, freaking gash in my elbow. Yeah, and I couldn't keep a Band-Aid on it and kept on bleeding, so I just put the arm sleeve over it and it would just bleed in the arm sleeve.
Gross.
Yeah.
Hey man, times are tough. Okay.
I had to bleach that, scrub that thing after every game for about a month because of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was good times. Just get down I'm getting down a different rabbit hole of different high school basketball memories now. This is not.
Oh no.
Oh man. Anyways,
Good
all right.
times.
You ready to start the show? You feel like you're good?
Yeah, we're good. We're
All
ready.
right. I feel like we're just gonna need some time for the draft and stuff. Do you want to do baseball first or football?
I don't. It don't matter
Let's
to
go
me.
football
Whichever.
first, and then we'll do tail end. We'll see what time we have for baseball.
Sounds good.
You good? All right.
Yep.
Got 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back, everyone, to the W Podcast, sports podcast, live right now as we are recording this. We're live on YouTube. So if you didn't know this, every single Monday night at 6:30 Central Time, we're live on YouTube. You can join the chat like many of our listeners do. We appreciate that. You can throw in your questions, but most importantly, you can join myself and our wonderful host here with us every single week, Tubby, on the show.
What is up? I'm a little sad.
You're a little sad.
Yeah, because the draft's over.
Oh, draft's over. I should have saw that coming, man. I seen that coming.
I'm a little sad.
Well, this is a good question. How many hours did you watch, start to finish, the whole thing? Did you miss anything?
No,
nothing.
Nothing.
Man, you're dedicated. That's awesome.
Yeah, I watch it all. It's NFL draft. I'll watch every single pick. You know, all the way from 1 to 200. How many 60 picks there is, depending on compensatory picks. How many compensatory picks there is? But yeah, I'll watch every single one of them.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the start of the first round because I was working late, and then by the time I got home, I can't remember what else I did. But then I didn't get to watch really any of the first round except a couple clips here and there, and so I was just keeping up on my phone. And then Friday, when the draft was about to start, I was about an hour before that. I was gonna help someone else move, and I was like, I got plenty of time. It's a simple move. Downpour of rain, so that added like an extra bit of time. And then I went to a friend's house later on, and so I was just following my phone again because by the time I got to it, that second round was over and the third round was already started. And I was like, I just can't watch it. I can't watch it. I can't go to the draft now. So then Saturday rolls around. Because of the rain, I had to jump in the car and go finish up the move, which is not a big deal. And here I was like, I'm not going to go to the draft at all now. I'm not going to have time. But I did get to go. I sent you a picture.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. The NFL does not mess around.
No.
Like, they go all out. Like, they had the Lombardi trophies there for the Chiefs, which was cool. They had like different things you probably heard about or saw some clips of if you were watching on ESPN or something like that. Like, if you wanted to do a 40 time, you could do that. I did. I hit 4.2. I had a lot of scouts looking at me. I'm not going to. That was my 20-yard dash time. Was 4.2. It was fine.
You crawling?
Yeah. Oh man.
The rest of the 20.
Yeah. There were some kids out there doing the shuttles, like the cone drills, and I was like, they were giving everything. And I'll be honest, they didn't have much to give. They just were not that good. And I'm like, all right.
And their parents are like, oh yeah, my kid's gonna be in the Super Bowl a few years from now. Yeah.
Big old head fakes, and then just wham, and I was like, no, I mean, I don't think anyone's falling for it, but it's fine. I'm glad you're doing it. You're active outside, so
you got your UDFA grade on them, undrafted free agent.
Dude, I'm telling you, I was sitting there this whole weekend. I was like, I mean, this could be the year. Like, I'm gonna keep my phone handy just in case. They didn't call. They didn't call. No. I checked my work number 2. They didn't call, but I was ready just in case.
Hey, you never know. Somehow, I mean, it was not a great draft. So
yeah, it was not a great draft. Sorry, real quick, we had someone in the chat just dropping a question. He changed his team to the Lakers. You can't change before we hit record. We were talking about the NBA playoffs, and Alejandro in the chat on YouTube said go Celtics. Now he's saying let's go Lakers. I don't know. Alejandro, we need to get this straight, man. Come on now.
I mean, those are like fighting words, aren't they? Go Lakers, go Celtics.
I think they might be, but I will say Alejandro might be one of the. I don't think you want to get in a fight with him. This dude he's pretty intense.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He's an awesome guy, but he's the kind of guy if you go to the gym with him that if it says 10 to 12 reps, it's 12 reps. What are you doing? It's not 10. It's 12 reps. So he's a really great guy. He'll push you.
Yeah.
But you got the he's got Bijan Robinson. So great question in the chat. Thank you for doing that, and we will get to that here soon.
Okay. Yeah. I was just trying to figure out which Texas running back, because there's two.
There were two. Yes. And so we're going to get to that. Believe it or not, before we did this, we actually went down a little bit of rabbit hole on ESPN with some of their previous drafts. And I quizzed 10 years old draft. Tubby had no idea. And I said, all right, 2013 draft, who are the first 4 picks? And boom, boom, boom. He got 3 out of 4, which I'm just saying that's pretty good. And he knew the profile of the other 4th person. So I'm just saying, when Tubby is going to be giving his grades throughout this episode, we are going to do that. And so I think, how about this? Because we'll go over the draft. We'll go over some of the surprises. Obviously, the Will Levis thing was a whole thing. You and I were texting about it, about Will Levis. Oh, my gosh, all the odds just shot up for him to be a top pick. And then for him at the end of day 1 to still be sitting there.
Yeah.
Nothing. So you want to start with that, and then we'll get into some grades here in a second.
Yeah, I mean, might as well.
Yeah.
The kid ended up being the biggest smoke screen ever in NFL history, I think. I mean, draft history. The fact that, days before the draft, he goes from a plus 4,000 to go number 1 to somewhere at one point was plus 400.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the talk about the Colts, even if CJ Stroud's there at 4, we're taking Will Levis. Will Levis is our guy. And then you take Anthony Richardson. And then you see a couple other teams, you go, okay, they could probably take him. This team will probably trade up. And he just kept on falling and falling. And I guess somehow you get things, leaked from, the CJ Stroud testing and, stuff about CJ Stroud. But yet no one leaks that Will Levis has a toe injury that everyone's worried about.
I know. I did hear rumors of that, and they were like, maybe he was just babying it at Kentucky. That's part of the reason why his play didn't go so well, and he didn't run the ball as much.
Mm-hmm.
Again, why are we playing the game?
Yeah, and so the fact that the Titans got probably the guy that, they were probably looking at in the 2nd round, I think it's great value, because I think that if you can fix the mechanics stuff with Will Levis, I think there's a chance he could be a good NFL quarterback. It's a lot of the mechanic stuffs with him, with his feet and him, throwing off the back foot all the time when he doesn't need to, and some of the decision making, because the dude has an arm, but there's times where he has guys open downfield and he's underthrowing them because he's not completely rotating through the throws, because he's throwing off his back foot when he doesn't need to. Is stuff that he's going to have to work on. But you get that guy that, I mean, I would have taken him over Anthony Richardson. I don't care.
All day.
The upside, for Anthony Richardson is high, but there's also the fact that he could just absolutely tank and be one of the worst picks in the 1st round in this draft is a very realistic possibility. And I love it for Tennessee, because I mean, we all know I was not a Malik Willis guy in last year's draft.
It's true.
And they've already, new GM came in. He basically said, we have no faith in him. And they went out and got a new guy who plays. I mean, it could work out good, because he does play somewhat similar to Ryan Tannehill when Ryan Tannehill is actually good.
Yeah.
And
I think I agree. Yeah.
Has the ability to be better than what Ryan Tannehill was.
Yeah. I would say it's closer to Ryan Tannehill than Josh Allen right now. That's what everyone keeps saying. So
definitely.
Titans aren't picking. Yeah, no, Malik Willis just proved that I just don't think he had the full development, because the game speed is so crazy fast in the NFL. And I just think for him, it is too fast, too complex. And that I don't know that he's going to be able to close that gap. Could he be a serviceable backup? Absolutely. I think if he really gets down, he really learns the game. If not, I'm telling you, that dude probably could light it up in the XFL or USFL, one of the two. Just have a lot of fun. So
yeah,
they can always work out a good backup plan.
The big thing for Malik Willis was, everyone had him going in the 1st round last year, and then he ends up dropping to the 3rd, 4th round and becomes like the 5th quarterback taken. Was because that a lot of teams were like, he had no football knowledge. His IQ was not high. They had to dumb down, playbooks for him in college. And then that was a big issue for him with the Titans. The Titans like, man, we couldn't throw a playbook at him. We had to really simplify it, and he's like so much that it couldn't be an effective playbook in the NFL.
What's worse, that or like, yeah, we threw a playbook at him. He said he looked at it, but we didn't give him anything. And you're like, yeah, I looked at blitz packages. What are you talking about, coach? We didn't send you nothing. Like, that was a dummy tape. Like, oh, man. I think that's where it's just because he was taking number one. But, all right, so obviously that was a huge storyline. The other one going right before the draft, I don't want to say we called it, but I feel like we called it. They got the trade done for Aaron Rodgers, and they got Lamar Jackson paid. All right, now we can draft, right? Like, that was what the NFL community, the whole world was waiting on, and boom, it happened. So, huge deal. He get paid big money, and he doesn't have an agent, so it's all his.
Yeah. I mean, both teams, or, both parties gave in. Lamar didn't get his fully guaranteed contract like he wanted, but he still becomes the highest paid. Becomes the highest paid player in the NFL, especially when it comes to, per year basis. And yeah, the Ravens, I think, were desperate mode where they weren't sold on Anthony Richardson. They weren't sold on, any of the quarterbacks in this draft to move up and go get one. And so they were kind of like, well, we got no other options. It's either Tyler Huntley or Lamar Jackson again.
Now, if they were sold on a quarterback, do you think that this deal doesn't happen and they go out and they draft or Will Levis or something like that late in the first round?
I mean, I think there's a good possibility, yeah, because it comes down to the fact that they were adamant they weren't paying him, that they had their number in mind and they weren't going to give it, give really a whole lot. And like you said, both parties ended up giving. Lamar, got paid, and whether you think it's overpaid. I mean, I think it is. Honestly, I'm not the biggest Lamar Jackson guy, but I think that, it is kind of what he's done, for that organization. He deserves it. He's put his body out there. It's just the last few years, a big issue not being able to rely on him, and now you're giving him $260 million, 185 million fully guaranteed for a guy that's played a total of 14 games in the last 2 seasons is a big problem if he becomes, because now he has no excuses. They went out and got him Odell Beckham, who, is a decent receiver. You go get Zay Flowers, in the first round, and you got, if Rashad Bateman's healthy, you got, 3 good receivers and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. You got 2 solid tight ends. So now if you can't go out and produce, then it's going to be a big problem because you've got everything there now to be.
Well, yeah, imagine that 2.5 years into this, and if he does get hurt, he gets another injury, he's out for a year, how much more risky this deal looks. The good news is it's only 5 years. Patrick Mahomes' deal was 13, right? So that's the same thing you saw with the deal that Jalen Hurts got, was the fact that, hey, it's a shorter deal. Yeah, you're going to get more money, but long term. I think that's the opposite of what we saw in baseball, where everyone was like, no, I want more years. Here they're just, no, we're going to give you more money. We're just not going to give you more years. So that's the turnaround. So they did give him a couple pieces. So I'm not sold on Odell. I think you know this. I think you've heard this many times. And so nothing new there. And so I'm not sold on that. But they better get better this year. They've been so hurt the last 2 years. I don't know. Either get a new training staff or figure out something different. Get tougher. Like, this has just been, it's been tough to see a team that should, honestly, if you look at this division, this is a very winnable division because of some of the gaps that I've seen from the Bengals. And maybe, they addressed some of those this offseason, which is going to help them. But at the same time, that window, it's open for someone to take this division. So,
yeah, no, definitely. But has anyone made a big enough jump? Oh, Quincy.
Making the show. Louisville. There you go. Loving it. We get a lot of Louisville. Didn't Malik Willis go to Louisville?
No, he went. That's Malik Cunningham.
Huh?
Malik Cunningham went to Louisville. Malik Willis went to Liberty.
Dang. Okay, I'm getting mixed up. There you go. That's why it's happening. Okay, my bad. I was going to say, could you imagine all the Louisville talk from us today?
And Lamar Jackson went to Louisville.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. We got both.
Yeah, no.
Leave it to me to get it wrong. But now you, man. Let's go. All right, so we got that out of the way. The other one that I was surprised by was DeAndre Swift moving on to the Eagles. I do think it's a good fit for DeAndre Swift to the Eagles if he can stay healthy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I like the fit. I like the scheme. Everything.
And they gave up really nothing for the guy. I mean, what you swapped a 6th and 7th round pick, and then you giving up a 4th round pick in 2025. Yeah, I'd do it in a heartbeat for a guy that has potential to be a really good NFL running back if he can stay on the field.
Yeah,
but it's all based off of one just wild pick. And yeah, we'll get to it when we get to the draft stuff. But man,
yeah. Well, I thought the for the Eagles themselves, or for Detroit, I thought it made sense to move on from DeAndre. I like DeAndre Swift. I've had him on a lot of fantasy teams, but I think it made sense. Like, hey, listen, I don't. Maybe they don't necessarily not believe in him, but they don't think, hey, long term, he's not our guy, and we're not going to re-sign him once his deal's over. Let's see what we can get right now. So, like you said, good deal. It works out. 100% agree. That was the one trade. Like, I'm looking at this draft going into it, and I think we can maybe talk about some grades here in a second, but we'll start with the first round before we get into the grades of like, wow, that pick did not make sense to me, or that was the one I did not see coming. I think we're both going to agree that Jahmyr Gibbs was that pick, right? At 12.
Absolutely.
Like, and this is a team, the Lions, the way they were set up was to dominate this draft. And this is the one pick I look at, I'm like, I just don't know if I like it. But now they have the need, so he's going to get the playing time.
But they didn't have the need at the time. They weren't wanting to trade Swift. Swift didn't ask for the trade until after they made the pick. And I think they reached really hard on both picks in the first round. You have, you're sitting at 6, awesome. You traded out and, it was a good move. You got, some extra picks out of it. But, man, you could have traded back even more. You could have traded that 12th pick and went into the 20s and got Jahmyr Gibbs. Or take Jahmyr at 18 and it looks a little bit better, and then take Jack Campbell in the mid-20s somewhere. But the fact that you take Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 when he's a guy that will not be able to be a 3-down running back because of his size, he cannot be
5'9".
He can't be your blocking running back. He's proven that in college. He does not have the blocking skills to be, a 3-down back. And yeah, you got guys like Dan Orlovsky, on ESPN. He's like, oh yeah, they're going to use him exactly how the 49ers use Deebo Samuel. And I'm like, guy, they are completely
not the same.
Players. No,
I don't listen to Dan.
No. Yeah, no, absolutely not. I listen to Dan and I laugh most of the time. No, if you're a Dan Orlovsky fan, I'm sorry. But the fact that one guy's 6'1" and 220 pounds, and the other one's 5'9", 190 pounds, don't think they're the same type of guy.
No, I 100% agree. They're definitely not. They had, what was it? They had 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and then 2 third-round picks. And I look at that, I'm like, on paper, like, you're about to really, you're set up to win this draft the way you are. And they're not late picks either. The third-round pick, the second one was the 33rd with the compensatory pick, but still, they were set up to dominate. And like you said, they reached on Gibbs, they reached on Campbell. I was okay with Sam Laporta at tight end. I'm going to be honest. There was like 2 or 3 tight ends take before Darnell Washington, and I love Washington. I don't know what people are doing, skipping over this guy. Your Packers included, man. We're going to start with the NFC North grades. I want to know what you're unless you want to wait.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was the pick that drove me nuts.
There was a thing, I guess, popped up on Washington, was something with his knee. I guess, some of the medicals about his knee popped up and had some teams worried about, a 6'8" guy, 260, 270 pound tight end who's having knee problems right now, I think is what pushed him as far as it was.
Yeah, that makes sense. But still, I think he'll be fine. Like, why? This dude can play. He can block. He's going to be one of the best blocking tight ends, but he can catch the ball. He's so athletic. I'm not saying he's like Travis Kelce, but I thought he was better than some of these other guys. Sam Laporta is good. And part of Sam's not his draft numbers. his draft day numbers won't look as good because he played in Iowa's stinky offense. But at the same time, so he's going to be able to block, but can he catch as well? I don't know. We'll see.
I was a big Sam Laporta guy. So
I know you are. This is what I'm telling you.
Yeah, I love that pick from Detroit. I love this Sam Laporta pick because basically you replace T.J. Hawkinson with T.J. Hawkinson.
Yeah,
just younger.
Yeah, that's exactly a good comp. But what if you could have a Shannon Sharp type guy? You know.
But I think you look at him and you go, you got one guy that has a big ceiling with Darnell Washington. That could we didn't see the production numbers in college. And part of that is probably because of Brock Bowers is there, a generational type of tight end.
Stetson Bennett's your quarterback. You got tons of depth at every position.
Yeah, and so there's a good possibility that is it. But now you got also a guy that has a very low floor and a very high ceiling. Now you're throwing in medical. I understand it, but the Packers did the same thing when they went with Luke Musgrave. Luke Musgrave, has played 2 games last year. So there's an understanding there that, the Packers took a swing and they went and got their guy that they know is different than what Washington was, where you go, okay, we know Musgrave, he can stretch down the middle of the field. We know he can, you get that separation. And then they went and got Tucker Kraft, the guy that's more along the Dallas Goedert where he can block and he's more of a, he's a solid receiver. So I understand.
Are you upset at all that they went and they picked 2 tight ends in the first 3 rounds and they also threw in a kicker there in the 6th?
No, I'm okay with the double dip in the tight ends because this is a historic tight end draft. I think this is probably the best draft you'll ever see for tight end group because you have, possibly 12 guys on this team that are going to be at least, backups in the NFL, at worst. And the Packers, you lose Robert Tonyan, you lose Mercedes Lewis. Now your tight ends are Isaiah DeGuara and, Danny Davis or whatever his name is. I can't even remember, some dude from Michigan State. And so, I'm okay with it, especially with how they went with different ones. I was hoping Laporta would have dropped or Mayer would have dropped to him. It didn't happen, but so I was okay with that. The kicker, I wasn't mad about because it was one of the last picks in the 6th round. So it wasn't, too bad. The one pick I absolutely hated, and we texted about this, is Sean Clifford, and it was
in the 5th round, dude.
Yeah, made absolutely no sense to me at all. And that was the one knock on the draft that I absolutely, with the Packers, I was like, what are we doing here? I absolutely hated the pick because that's a guy that I believe that you could have absolutely picked up on the free agency afterwards.
Yes.
Or you took him in the 7th round because no one's taking that guy. And that one blew my mind. Other than that, I loved what they did, the Packers. I gave them an A-, and the minus is because of the Sean Clifford. I love the Lucas Van Ness pick. I know a lot of Packers fans were mad. I was upset because I wanted JSN. I thought JSN would have been a perfect match with Dobbs and Watson. And the fact they passed on, I knew it was going to happen. I said it before. I said they will do absolutely opposite of what I want them to do. And they went out and got Lucas Van Ness, who on my board was the number 3 edge rusher, and that's where he went. And so I'm okay with that. I think the upside for Lucas Van Ness is, huge. I think we're going to see a guy that can be somewhat like we see with Trey Hendrickson. May not be the most flashy name, but man, Trey Hendrickson over the last 3 years is top 5 in sacks in the NFL. So I like the pick. And then they got this kid in the 6th round in Carl Brooks, who the fact that he was there when you hear guys like Mache and Kuiper and Daniel Jeremiah and Matt, Miller all talking about this guy and going, and the fact that he dropped to the 6th round, a guy that had 27.5 sacks in his college career, 46 tackles for loss, and a total of 89 tackles. Yeah, he played for Bowling Green, but those numbers are hard to pass on. And the fact that he drops to the 6th round, I think is great. He's going to be a good 3 technique, 3-4 defensive end.
Too, so
yeah. So I love the Packers draft. I thought they did a great job, except for freaking Sean Clifford.
That Clifford one might bring it should. Maybe B plus, because that pick was brutal, man. That was so.
Yeah,
I didn't believe
very well.
when I saw it.
Yeah, I thought there was a possibility they took a quarterback, and there's other quarterbacks there that I was like, you could take, Cannon McKee would have been a way better pick. A couple other guys there, Jaron Hall would have been a way better pick.
Like the kid from Houston.
Yeah, Clayton Tune would have been a way better pick.
Yep.
But the fact that they went with Sean Clifford and they said, man, this is one of the smartest guys that we've talked to. And I'm like, he ain't that smart. You look at those interception numbers, he ain't that smart.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's do this because otherwise we're probably going to get too in the weeds on every single team. So let's go through the NFC North. We'll start there, and because that's when we've already hit 2 teams up. So we got your grade A- for the Packers. What is your grade for the Lions and Vikings and Bears? And we'll kind of maybe pick one from each team to talk about.
So the Lions, I went with the C plus. And the reason why it's not lower is because that second day draft I thought was great for them. Laporta, you get Branch, and you get Hendon Hooker, and even Roderick Martin, who is a, not so known name from. I thought they did great there. The Bears, I gave them an A. I thought they did a really good job of fitting holes. Putting guys in holes that they were needing. The one thing is, I wasn't as high on Darnell Wright. I would have taken Broderick Jones or Peter Skoronski there. But they went and got their guy. They thought that he was, their future right tackle. So I can't knock them on that. And the Vikings, I gave the Vikings a B. There was a couple of the picks, the mid rounds, like Mekhi Blackton and what was his name? Jay Ward. Wasn't too hip on him. I mean, any guy from defensive guy really from USC. No offense to USC fans, they ain't gonna be able to tackle.
That's my thought. Everyone was like, "Oh, they went all out and tore up the Pac-12 defense." At times, I'm like, "Yeah, this team is terrible. Like the defense is terrible a lot of times in the Pac-12." But did you like the Jaron Hall pick at all?
Yeah, it's a decent pick. It's a good backup. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that you're going to go, okay, that's going to replace, Kirk Cousins next year. He doesn't have that makeup to be. Now, if they would have took a Hendon Hooker, at some point, maybe it would have been a lot smarter and a better, possibility down the line. Because, like I said, I'm not big on Mekhi Blackton. I'm not big on Jay Ward. So you possibly could have, taken something there. But I mean, Jordan Addison's a good fit for them. Give him another wide receiver. Go along with Justin
receiving core could be pretty steep. I mean, with all those guys, Jordan Addison, I thought was probably. I like him as one of my top tier receivers. He's a little bit smaller, but just seeing what he did across 2 different teams, one where everything leaned on him with him and Kenny Pickett, and one where they didn't really have to, and he still succeeded. He had some really good plays. Dwayne McBride, I thought, was a good pick out in the last round for the 7th round. Yeah, out of UAB. Yeah. I mean, you're playing against Conference USA. Those guys don't play defense, so I did like that one. For the Lions, I am so sad to say, they've been the darling of the NFL this year with how hot they were at the end of the year, almost making the playoffs. People were excited about them, and then, we talked about, again, reached a little bit. Okay on some of the picks. Hendon Hooker, I do think, was a good pick in the 3rd round. Who knows? If that works, great. If it doesn't, if it's a 3rd-round pick on a quarterback, you can't really be upset about it. So it still sets them up with Jared Goff. What does that look like this next year? Not this upcoming season, the following one. No other real thoughts. I mean, the Bears, I kind of wish that we had our old pal Joseph on here just so we could always get his take on it. I saw a lot of Bear fans here at the draft. What I didn't see was a lot of Bills fans. Bills fans travel real well, but I did not see that many.
Mafia didn't show out, huh?
Yeah, did not. And I was surprised. I was surprised. Maybe I just wasn't in the right area, but again, I live really close to the draft. Didn't see any jerseys. Saw a lot of Cowboy fans, Super fans everywhere. So, but the Bears, I thought they did a good job. What I like about it is they didn't have to go get a receiver because they already made the trade. So they have that. They also Chase Claypool trade. Don't really think they won that trade necessarily, but they were able to really build pieces around. So I do like the team going forward. Noah Sewell out of Oregon. I thought that was a good pick later in the draft, a good day 3 pick for them. Overall, is nothing flashy. I think if you're a fan of the team, you didn't go for the sexy picks. You didn't get the quarterback. You didn't get a receiver. You didn't get an edge rusher really early on. You went tackle, defensive tackle, corner, defensive tackle, and then a running back in the 4th round. There's nothing anyone's going to be super excited about, but these are the pieces you got to have for a strong team, and hopefully Chicago can figure it out.
Yeah, the one thing I think I would have liked to see the Bears do is draft an interior offensive line guy. A guy like Luke Whippler, I mean, went in 7th round. I think had a lot higher, ceiling floor than some of these other guys. And the fact that he went in the 7th round was kind of wild. I had him in my top 5, my interior offensive lineman. But I love the Zach Pickens pick. I think Pickens was a very underrated defensive tackle in a weak defensive tackle draft. And Gervin Dexter is another great, hole fielder, in the middle for the Bears. Their defensive line was not good last year.
Yeah. And they really attacked it in the draft. So way to go them. And there are still a couple other guys who didn't get drafted. Now, not everybody may know this. Even if you got drafted, you still may not make the team. All those 6th, 7th round picks don't always make the squad. They make practice squad or something like that. But for a lot of these teams, if you had 4 or 5 day 3 picks, like 6, I will say specifically 6th, 7th rounds, don't expect all those guys to make it. So there's still the chance for even the Bears to make that happen. So, all right, let's go ahead. We're going to go from the NFC North. We're going to go to the NFC East, so that way I can keep geographically where we're at. So we got the Commanders, we got the Eagles, and we got the Cowboys.
The Cowboys.
Who's the last team I'm forgetting?
Giants.
Oh gosh, man, what is going on with me? I don't think about that division like at all. So
yeah, no. These teams you got one team that you can look at in this division that really absolutely killed the draft, and it was the Eagles. I mean,
they did.
The fact you end up with Jalen Carter, who on a lot of people's big boards,
at
he was
9.
the number 1. Yeah, and that was exactly where I mocked him. Just wasn't to the Eagles; it was to the Bears. And the fact you get him there, and all you had to do is give up a 4th round pick to move up 1 spot to get arguably the best player in the draft. And then on top of that, you get Nolan Smith at 30 at the back end of the 1st round. A guy that a lot of people were, really big on.
They got like 6 Georgia Bulldogs in the last 2 years. Everyone's Philadelphia Bulldogs.
Go out and get Keely Ringo too. I mean, who I think absolutely needs to make the shift to safety. I think if you put him at safety, there's a good chance he becomes a Pro Bowl safety. The one pick, and can you guess the one pick for their draft? And there's the reason why they are not my favorite draft. Can you guess the one player?
Tyler Steen.
And why?
You just don't believe in him. You don't. It's an Alabama
offensive lineman.
We know how we've seen this play out many times.
And that's the one reason. You take any other offensive lineman almost at that point around that area, I'm okay with it. Tyler Steen, sorry, any Bama fans just can't do it.
Yeah. I didn't really like the Tanner McKee pick. I don't really believe a Stanford quarterback's outside of luck, really, for the most part. So I just don't see a ceiling.
I mean, you got him later in the draft. So
can I really be upset about a 6th round pick?
Yeah, you're throwing darts at the dartboard and hoping one sticks. I mean, you can't really be too mad because that's a guy that a lot of people had, possibly going somewhere close to the 3rd, 4th round, and he drops to the 6th round. Yeah, why not throw it out there and go, hey, maybe he's a good, decent backup, for us at some point.
Yeah. Well, how did you feel about the Giants? What's their grade?
The Giants, I actually liked, a good bit of their draft. There was a few picks that, I probably would have went different, but for the most part, I really liked. I thought, getting Banks in the 1st round, a team that needed some defensive backs. I would have liked to see, I'm not a big fan of Hyatt. I don't buy the hype with everything, speed, all that. Man, yeah, he can score. He can put up the points. He had 19 touchdowns this year. Yeah, that's hard to, take away from him. But I think that there is a ceiling for the guy that he doesn't have. He's not very good route runner. I think he could have went some, a different area with the, different wide receiver. One of my, knocks on him. I like the Eric Gray pick. I think Eric Gray, is a sleeper running back.
All the way to the 5th round.
Yeah, had a breakout year last year. And, right now, the way things are with Saquon, he may be the starting running back this year.
It's true. Isn't Trey Sermon a free agent now? He off a roster?
Is he? I didn't say he. I don't know what happened with the Eagles. Yeah, but I gave the Eagles an A. I gave the Giants an A minus. There's maybe one or two guys you could have swapped in and out, but other than that, I thought it was a pretty solid draft for the Giants. The Commanders, I gave them a B. I think that the value of day 2, they fumbled on. I think that you could have found some better value, where they're picking. But I mean, I think that they did a solid job for the most part. The Cowboys, I just gave them a solid B.
B. No, I think that's right. I think that's all these picks for the Commanders in 5 years. If you said, had a good career, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Like some of these guys are good. Like their first round, I don't feel excited about Emmanuel Forbes. He's good.
See, I like Forbes. I think
is he the top tier, or is he he's the last of this tier? We're gonna have to take him at the value.
The problems with Forbes is going to be the size. I mean, the kid weighs 166 pounds at corner. So if he can put on some weight, put on some muscle, the kid has the most interception returns for a touchdown in college football history. He has a nose for the football.
Are pretty much garbage.
He has a nose for the football. He's a ball hawk. So I mean, I like the Forbes pick. I mean, like I said, you probably could have went other direction at corner, but that was that's their guy. I put on there. You had a solid draft, nothing great, nothing bad. Really, it was just one of those.
B.
You did decent. You hit, but may not hit anything special.
Yeah.
And then the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of the Cowboys draft. Just be honest.
Boring draft, dude. Other than the fact that Deuce Vaughn got drafted by his dad. That was cool.
Yeah. That's about the only good thing. I mean, I like the Fehoko pick. I think Fehoko is a underrated guy. On the edge. The Maze Smith, I mean, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Yeah, you did stink at stopping the run, so maybe
it was all about the run game is what I felt like that pick was. Got to get a defensive tackle, big boy, put him in the middle.
But man, if you're looking to stop the run, that's not the guy. I mean, my big knock on Maze
is good at stopping the run, so he's also part of that's what I think the Cowboys just make those type of decisions.
And my big knock on him was that the trigger off the line is very slow, and so he didn't impact the game behind the offensive line very much. And if you're that slow in the NFL, those all pro guards, just pro ball guards, mid-tier guards are going to be able to pick you off so fast in the run game. And that was my biggest problem, because Mazi's more projected as a pass rush defensive tackle than he is a run guy. And yeah, you got a great pass rush. Nothing take away from the
run stoppers.
Yeah, the run stoppers is the spot where you just didn't have. I like the Deuce Vaughn pick. I think Deuce Vaughn, the kid is 5'6", 5'5", yeah. But he hides behind the line, and he is hard to bring down in the open field. Yeah. He may not have ran the fastest at the combine, but the dude on the field, you look at that game speed, it is electric. And in the pass game, he's a difference maker, and he's a guy that you probably look at and you go, well, 10 years down the road, he's still on an NFL team producing either in the run game, the pass game, or special teams.
It's true. I can see that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the NFC South. So we got the Saints, Falcons, Panthers, and Bucks. So the Buccaneers, I'm going to start with them just because I feel like they are a team that they're really going to be searching for an identity here pretty soon. Do you feel like they found the pieces to an identity here in this draft?
No.
Okay, that was my answer too, but I just wasn't sure.
No.
Again, they're in such a tough spot. I think this year, like last year, they went 8-9. They won the division. It was a bad division. Tom Brady retired. Who's got the reins now? Is it It's not Trask. Who is it?
Yeah, it's either Trask or Mayfield.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I forgot they signed Mayfield. Okay, so here's the thing. I think their whole goal here be bad enough to get one of those two quarterbacks next year. That's what this tells me.
Yeah, I don't think they did a whole lot to help themselves. Elijah Cansey is a guy that I think is one of the biggest boomer bust players in this draft, because you can't play him on the edge because he's not big enough. He's got short arms,
He's
6'1". Yeah, 280, and you can play him on the inside because he's got the speed, but he doesn't have the size and stuff to move guys. And so he did have all the sacks in college because he was so much faster than the guards in the ACC. But he's also a guy that you watch the run game, watch his highlights, and he is absolutely at times just you didn't even know he was on the field because he's been taken out of the play that much in the run game. And so I wasn't huge on that. I like the Cody Mock pick. I think Cody Mock was the guy that a lot of people were kind of sleeping on because I literally watched him in the Senior Bowl play left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. I mean, he can play everywhere along, and he's got that country tough. I mean, you can tell that is a country boy that And I think
the picture of his freshman year to his senior year graduating, does some stuff that I thought was great, and then he ended up here in Tampa Bay, which I think he'll be a crowd favorite pretty quick.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Ryan Jensen.
That's who I thought. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
he might be a little friendlier.
Yeah, probably a little friendlier. Maybe that doesn't have as much of a mean side as Jensen. And I like the Trey Palmer pick. 6th, 7th round, a guy that could possibly be a decent 3 or 4 wide receiver. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot about that draft that I was too keen on. I gave him a B- just because I like the Palmer and the Mock pick. But other than that, it wasn't a whole lot.
We'll talk about them next year, man. I'm telling you, they're going to be up there, I think, towards the top end of the draft. They also were an old team, so they're having to rebuild a lot of stuff. All right. We got the Saints next.
Saints. Yeah, so let's see. Let me find them on the sheet here. Oh, boy. Saints, yeah. I gave the Saints a B. It's kind of the same thing with the Commanders. There wasn't anything great, wasn't anything bad about it. I like the A.T. Perry pick. I was honestly shocked that A.T. Perry dropped down to the 6th round. It was a guy that I thought was probably at least a 3rd round, 4th round lock. The size, the length, the ability that he has. I thought he was absolutely, a day 3 or day 2 guy at least, at the highest, and an early day 3 guy. And the fact that he fell as far as he did, I was, kind of shocked. So they got him a great, piece there, I think. But honestly, there wasn't a whole lot that you're like, man, this is a exciting draft, but it wasn't anything that I was like, man, that was just, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say B- that we said?
I just gave him a solid B, just because, like I said, it's like the middle of the road. Just nothing great, nothing awful. Cool, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's accurate. So, all right, well, we'll move on from them. All right, next up, Houston. No, that's AFC South. Sorry. Where
we go? Got Atlanta.
I haven't scrolled over to the A's yet. All right, there we go.
Yeah, so you got the Falcons. I gave him
Bijan was 8th.
Man, this one was tough because I think originally I had him as B-. Then I shifted him down to C+. And
I think that's fair.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't like Bijan. I absolutely love Bijan, even though he played at Texas. He is the best running back in this draft, but the value just isn't there.
Yeah,
it really isn't. Bergeron, I think was a decent pick, but it wasn't anything.
It's hard when your first lineman is a guard. Like, that's just tough.
Yeah,
he's an interior offensive line.
It's a team that wasn't. Honestly, you look at the offensive line; it wasn't horrible. It was a decent offensive line, so it's not like you really did anything special there. I can understand if you would have took another tackle that maybe down the road is someone that can replace. His name just Jake Matthews, because Matthews is getting a little older and he'd probably retire in the next year or so. I really love the Clark Phillips pick. Clark Phillips, to me, he was probably my second favorite player in this draft. He's small. He's 5'8", 5'9", cornerback, but the kid is just a dog. He does everything on the field, interceptions, around the ball, making hits, making plays, never giving up. The motor is, just absolutely there. So I love the pick there, getting him in the 4th round. Love that pick. So, but yeah, I just don't think the value with Bergeron and with Bijan were quite there, and you just kind of didn't really hit anywhere else in the draft, I don't think.
Well, at least they're going to sell some jerseys of Bijan, so that's good. Yeah. All right. So we got the last team, Carolina Panthers, the number one overall pick, and they go with Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud, who I think a lot of people had him linked to a little bit. They followed up with Jonathan Mingo in the second round. They didn't have a whole lot of picks, which you'd think you got rid of DJ Moore and you got rid of CMC, and you had 5 picks. So at least all 5 picks from the first 5 rounds.
That's true. Hey, at least they're somewhat higher picks, I guess. I mean, I gave him a B minus. The first 2 picks,
number of picks, or is it based off of the talent?
I think part of it is a little bit of both. I mean, I also factored in the trade in this pick because I mean, really, the trade you gave up your first round pick and you gave up DJ Moore and gave up a future first round pick and a third round pick and a second round pick this year. So I mean, you gave up a lot to move up, but you went up and got your guy, and hopefully that you got to hope that you hit. I think Bryce Young, he was one of the 2 quarterbacks in this draft where I go, okay, yeah, I think both of them are NFL quarterbacks.
I'd roll the dice.
Yeah, I was higher on Stroud, per my rankings, but I don't blame him for going Bryce Young either. I like the Mingo trade or the pick. I think Mingo was a guy that a lot of people slept on. I think if he reaches his ceiling, we see a guy like we've seen, AJ Brown. I mean, the matchup, the comparisons like almost perfect size, speed, whatever.
Style of play.
Yeah, same school. It's a pick that we could possibly see like we saw then, where everyone go, man, we wish we wouldn't have passed on AJ Brown. So he could very possibly be one of the top, 1 or 2, 3 wide receivers in this draft if he reaches the ceiling.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing. As part of you factored in the trade, that's good. That's tough because, and you don't have to do it for all the drafts because there's the 43 trades, which we've never seen that many trades. There's a lot of trades.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go get the number 1 pick or a top 3 pick, then the factoring has to come into it. So how did you feel about, we're going to move over to the NFC West. So we got Arizona Cardinals. So you already have your quarterback. That's what they feel. They did draft a quarterback, Clayton Tune, out of Houston. So we already mentioned him. Very different quarterback than Kyler Murray, different style of play, but he had a good career. So you got Paris Johnson, BJ Ojulari. Thank you very much. So, they really attacked a lot of different spots here.
I like what they did. I gave him an A. I thought this was a really solid draft because, one, you made your quarterback happy. Kyler Murray told him, I want Paris Johnson. We knew that they weren't going to take Paris Johnson. Yeah, we knew they weren't going to take Paris Johnson at 3 more than likely. And what they do, they went and traded it, got an extra second-round pick this year. Then you turn around and you get a first-round pick next year when the draft is supposed to be, a lot better. And for a team that could possibly you get it from the Texans, I think they'll be better than they were this year. I think Stroud is a lot better. I think DeMeco Ryans is a way better head coach. I think they and in that division besides the Jaguars, so for them to have a better year next year, I think is probably going to happen. But I mean, you get your guy. I like the Ojulari pick. I think he a great second day 2 edge rusher. I think Mike Wilson is another, wide receiver that a lot of people weren't, so big on because he played at Stanford. And I mean, the offense there wasn't great, but the kid put up some decent numbers for the quarterback play that they had. I gave him a solid A. I thought it was a good draft for them to hit spots and then you get picks for next year when you are a team that is going to need picks to rebuild because your team is not good.
Yeah, there's a lot of different pieces. And this year, not sure when Kyler Murray is going to be back. They do have a backup who can help compete with an injury-prone Colt McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
But there you go. Problem solved. Colt McCoy is their backup still, right? Like, I'm not mixing him up.
Honestly, I can't remember. I felt like they signed someone, but I can't remember who it was. And then,
backup QBs. What's the, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Rams. No first-round picks for this team, but tons of day 3 picks. I think they had – there's one point I was at the draft, and I was like, are the Rams always up? Like, geez. They had 1, 2, 3, 4 fifth-round picks, 3 sixth-round picks, and 3 seventh-round picks. So you look at this draft, you're like, they're going to have a lot of picks, but it's all day 3 late-round stuff.
Yeah. I thought for the as latest, with the late round picks that they had, I thought they got great value with it and made a lot of, out of what they didn't really have. He went out and got guys that can help the team. One pick I loved, and this is a guy that I talked about last week, and is Zachary Evans. That I think that if you didn't have the off the field issues, this is the number 2 running back in the draft. Off the field issues are going to be a big problem with him. Can Sean McVay be able to wrangle him in? Because if he does, this is a guy that you look at that could be, Melvin Gordon when Melvin Gordon was good, and you get him in the 6th round, absolutely still a pick. I gave him a B, just a solid B, just because most of their picks were, in the later, so it's hard to really hit on a lot of them. And like you said, a lot of these 6th, 7th round guys, maybe in some 5th round guys, especially in this draft, not being as deep as it is, are probably not going to make the team.
Puka got drafted, though. You got to love that. Also, Jason Taylor. I mean, they went for names here. And then I'm sure that you already had a profile on Ethan Evans. Not Zach Evans, Ethan Evans.
Ethan Evans.
Out of what college?
I don't know.
Wingate. Yeah, he had some of those punts. I was like, how many of those were with Win? But he was a good punter. But, I mean, how often are you drafting a punter? So, all right, moving on. San Francisco or Seattle? We'll do Seattle first.
Yeah, Seattle, they killed it.
You killed it. Is this your favorite team's draft then, if you're feeling that way?
I have one team that I have higher. But this
have talked about or haven't?
Haven't. As of right now, so far, this is my favorite draft.
There you go.
What they did, I mean, one, I didn't see them taking Witherspoon. Honestly, I thought they were going to go edge rusher, and they go out, and now you pair Tariq Woolen, who was, one of the biggest sleepers in the draft last year, led NFL interceptions as a rookie. Now you piece him with, depending on who you are, the number 1 corner in this draft. So now you're building up that defense. And then what do you do with your second first-round pick? You go out and get the best wide receiver in this draft. And it was a wide receiver that, to me, he was far, head above everyone else in this receiver class. And, from a guy like Brian Hartline said, this was the second best wide receiver he's coached in college football. Yeah, it is a big deal, especially with what has been produced from Ohio State. So I absolutely loved what they did the first, round, and even in the later, second, third, they have a way. John Schneider has a way of just hitting in the draft, and especially, some of these later round guys will probably hit, and we won't even know who. Maybe that was a good pick, but yeah, Schneider, I think, absolutely killed it. I gave him an A, and this is like it was on verging on an A+ that they did that well.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we're going to get to the team who did not have any picks until the 3rd round, on the last third of the 3rd round. That's tough to do, and that obviously was the Trey Lance trade is why this is coming into play. So, Jair Brown was the first pick for this team, and then their second pick was a kicker.
Yeah.
So I got to know, what grade did you get the 49ers?
A C-. This is the lowest grade.
I can't believe they got above a D+. I really cannot believe it.
It was Jair Brown, and that was the only reason why they got above a D+. And because I was
a big Cameron Latu fan, or Latu.
No, they had one guy in this draft that I liked, and it was their first pick in the 3rd round.
If that's the case, we've got to trim it down. This has got to be a D-. If you can't, he can't be worth that much.
But in a draft where the safeties are as bad as they are, and he was my second safety behind Brian Branch, and I think that the kid has the factor to be a really, really good NFL safety, because he's not just one of those, safeties where you go, okay, well, he's really good in the run game, not so great in the pass game. I mean, the kid had 122 tackles and 10 interceptions in the last 2 years in college as a safety. So I think the ball skills, the run game, I think there's a lot there. He just has to work a little bit more on the instinctual side of the, of the game. And we could see a somewhat, like a Earl Thomas type guy.
You're telling me, though, that they couldn't have found a tackle or offensive line instead of a kicker, though?
Yeah, no, I don't know what John Lynch was doing in this.
I understand. Their kicker was great. 3rd round, though.
No, absolutely. I mean, you know who the last kicker was taken in, this high in the draft?
I'd have to guess what's his name, Janikowski, Sebastian.
No.
Oh no! It was the guy from Tampa Bay.
So Roberto Arguello. Yeah.
No, I guess wrong again. Good lord.
No, he was drafted by Tampa.
Well, who's the other? Oh, who's the other kid that I'm thinking maybe for Atlanta? But it was the. But no. You're right. I was picturing the same guy in my head. I was mixing up two different kickers though.
It was Roberto Arguello, and we saw what happened with him. One of the biggest kicker company. The kid was named Mr. Perfect in college because he set all the records. Couldn't miss in college, and he came in the NFL and
got the
absolutely fell flat on his face. So yeah,
I can't believe you didn't give them an F.
I wanted to.
Jair Brown, I get it, but man.
Yeah. No, I mean it was an awful draft. It really was. And so, if you want to give him a D-, D+, whatever, yeah, I was being generous and gave him a C- just because I like the Jair Brown pick.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to move on now to the NFC North, and we're going to start with Alejandro's team because he put this in the chat. He said, Patriots are going all the way this year. You watch. Also, happy birthday to Wes Welker. So happy birthday, Wes Welker from the W Podcast. All right, moving on. Can't talk about the Patriots as much. Let's talk about their draft instead. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, they had a couple guys. I gave them B-.
Yeah.
And
had a lot of picks, a lot of 6th-round picks.
You drafted a kicker and a punter.
I know.
In this draft. I love the Christian Gonzalez pick. The fact that Christian Gonzalez dropped to them at 17 was insane because that's who I expected. I was like, man, the Lions dropped back to 12 and they're still going to get their guy. And didn't take him. No. And I think the Kayshon Boutte pick, you get, this is a guy that everyone was looking at last year, or at the beginning of this year and said, he's a 1st-round guy. Off the field things have popped up on him. So, but who better than Bill Belichick to maybe wrangle him in? I mean, except for Aaron Hernandez. We won't bring that up. But, I mean, at least a guy that has the talent to give them, if, is able to reach a legit number 1 target. I was surprised they didn't go with really decent offense line or a tight end. A draft where, like I said, historic tight end draft, and a guy in Bill Belichick that loves tight ends. You didn't take a tight end,
but he took a kicker and a punter.
And took a kicker and a punter. So I gave him a B-. I thought there's some really good potential there with Christian Gonzalez. He was my number 1 corner in this draft, and I think Kayshon Boutte, the potential is reached. He is a legit number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, the only team to take someone from HBCU, from Jackson State, Isaiah Bolden in the 7th round. So, all right. Well, let's move on to, you want to go to the Dolphins?
Yeah.
Okay. They had 4 picks. 4 picks in the whole draft, so we'll go quick through them. They also cheated, so they lost their 1st-round pick.
This team, it's hard to grade because they only had 4 picks, but I think they missed on pretty much all 4 picks. I'm not a big fan of A-Shane. I like Cam Smith. Cam Smith is one, a top 5 corner for me, but it's not a position of need for them. You got Xavier Howard and you got Jalen Ramsey. Yep. You got 2 of the better corners in this draft. You didn't get any protection really for, Tua. You could have taken a tight end, could have taken edge rusher, positions that you actually need, and you didn't.
What are you talking about? They need a receiver. They don't have any receivers on this team, so they got Elijah Higgins.
No one throw the ball to. Oh, well, I should say Elijah Higgins is considered a tight end. It says wide receiver. They're actually probably they're a lot of teams are moving. We're going to move him to tight end. So they technically did get a tight end, but they didn't get a tight end.
Just saying. All right. So So are you giving them the incomplete grade?
I gave him a C+ just based off the 4 picks because I like Cam Smith, but other than that, man, A-Shane, it depends on who you are. I'm not a big A-Shane guy, but a lot of people, we're big on him. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Not great.
Well, I can't argue with you. I would like to. I'd like to say that you have to give them a worse grade, but you don't have to. I said the AFC North earlier. We're doing the AFC East right now. That's my bad. All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to go on to the Jets, everyone's favorite team, the new quarterback, who said, and I quote, that Super Bowl III trophy is looking pretty lonely. So I'm going to win a Super Bowl this year. So
Yeah, no.
Super Bowl rookies right now. Who are we looking at?
They swung and a miss. I gave him a
Okay.
C. This is on par with the Dolphins. And Will McDonald, I like Will McDonald. I do. But I think at 15, I don't think the value is there. I think there's a guy that, if you wanted to, you could have got in the mid 20s, even in second round. But you missed on one thing, and you did not get him really any protection except for a kid in the third, fourth round from Pitt that I wasn't big on. He was outside my top 15 offensive tackles in a deep offensive tackle draft. You could have moved back in the first round and got a guy like Anton Harrison, who would have been way better pick, value there at that pick. Will McDonald has potential to be a really good edge rusher, but it's not your biggest need, and you did not get any protection for Aaron Rodgers at all. So I gave you a C because you just flat out missed. The rest of the draft, it just wasn't a whole lot I liked about it. I think Tippmann, second round, way too high. Is a guy that I think has some potential, but he has a lot of issues with his balance. He is easily, you can throw him off, and then plus on top of that, he drafted a 6'5" center.
Yeah. Well, hey, you got to try something new sometimes.
Yeah.
They didn't draft a punter and a kicker in the same draft.
They did not.
So they got that going for them, which is pretty nice. But you're right. I don't think they addressed their needs very well. We'll move to. Did you already see your grade?
Yeah, I gave him a C.
Okay, C. All right. Hey, I feel like you're grading on the curve, man. I feel like you need to be next year. I want you to come in hard and
I
can.
Hard
to get an A plus.
I mean, one team did get an A plus. I will give you that.
But did anybody get an F?
No.
Anybody get a D?
I didn't give them. No.
I was hopeful. I was waiting for it.
C minus was the lowest I gave.
Right, that's fair. Okay. All right. So we got the Buffalo Bills. I did like the Dalton Kincaid pick. I felt like he's very Buffalo. He's going to fit right in. He's going to be a fan favorite. Didn't have a whole lot of picks here in this one, but they did have a first, second, and third. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an okay draft. I wasn't, other than Kincaid, I wasn't anything I was stoked about.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was like you said, it was a solid draft. I gave him a B. Like I said, I like the Kincaid. I like the Osiris Torrance pick in the second round. It was a guy that a lot of people had on their board, going late in the first round. So getting him in the second round, some good value. I like Dorian Williams. He's a sleeper at the linebacker position from Tulane. I don't like that you didn't go out and get any edge rushers. I mean, a team that couldn't put any pressure on Joe Burrow in the playoff game where they came off of giving up 8 sacks to the Ravens. Besides Von Miller, you have no pass rush at all, and you didn't go out and address that at all. And then I wasn't a big fan of the Justin Shorter trade. I think there's wide receivers out there like an A.T. Perry or someone that you could have got that had better value. But so I gave him a B. Like I said, a couple guys I like, a couple things that just you missed on.
Yeah, the Justin Shorter that one is tough. Maybe because we didn't see his full potential. Like you look at him, he lives like 6'4", 230 or something like that, 225. Yeah. You're like, ooh, this guy's going to be unstoppable in the next level. And maybe part of his problem was that he had Anthony Richardson throwing to him for a little bit. So that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, he was the number one wide receiver coming out of high school, and I mean, just really was never able to put it together at Penn State or in Florida.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, you want to move on to the AFC North, actually, the AFC North this time.
The actual AFC North.
Yeah. Let's go Baltimore first.
Yeah, let's go Baltimore. All right. I think I gave him a B minus. I like the Zay Flowers pick. I do. I think Zay Flowers is a sneaky, a good wide receiver. I think getting Borsey down in the 7th round is a guy that I think was a close to a top 5 interior guy. And the reason why he drops is because he tears his ACL during the
second year they've done this too.
Yeah, and so heck, I'm all for it. You get him in the 7th round when you got a guy who's probably values more along the lines of a 3rd round to maybe 4th round at worst. Yeah, I take that any day. It just wasn't a whole lot other than that I liked. I mean, I like Zay Flowers. I like Voorhees. Other than that, wasn't the best, I don't think, but I gave him a B minus.
Yeah. I think that's a fair grade based off what it is. But Zay Flowers was a good pick. Fell a little, didn't fall a little, but I think it's right where we wanted to. Was good value. All right, so let's move on to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I liked what the Bengals did. I think they did a pretty solid job. I gave them an A-. I mean, getting Miles Murphy where you did at 28. The fact that he dropped that far. I mean, there's a couple of edge rushers that went ahead of him that I don't think should have. I was a big Miles Murphy guy. He reminds me a lot of Rashawn Gary.
I didn't feel like they needed a defensive end though in this draft, or at least in the first round of the draft. I felt like that's more of a depth thing.
Yeah, and I mean, at that point, I mean, what holes are they trying to fill? I mean, you look at their edge. I mean, you got Sam Hubbard, who's more of a run stopping, guy on the outside, and you got Trey Hendrickson, who is in the final year of his contract, so that has probably played into it. And I love the Jordan Battle pick.
I was going to say that was one of my favorite picks that they had was Jordan Battle, late third round, right before the compensatory picks.
Yeah, you lose Jesse Bates in free agency. You need to put a guy there. Jordan Battle, I think, was a great pick. He was one of my higher safeties, and getting Brown in the fifth round, I think was another great value pick.
And a punter.
Yeah, got a punter.
What are we doing? Drafting punters. I feel like that's one of those things. Like, I don't even want to draft in my fantasy league a kicker or a defense. I'm just going to take them away. But if I have to, they're not going to be until the last rounds. What are we doing?
Yeah, definitely.
Whatever. All right. Did you give their grade?
I gave him an A-.
A-. I feel like that's pretty good. Cleveland Browns. No first, no second round picks. They had a couple of third and fourths, but I mean, that's part of the deal to get their guy, Deshaun Watson. And they drafted a backup quarterback this year. DTR does go here in the fifth round for him. I thought that was a good pick for him. You might as well get some insurance just in case this massive deal doesn't work out.
Yeah, and does a lot of things that Deshaun Watson does. So, I mean, you don't have to really fix the offense a whole lot for him. I thought they had a decent draft for, late as they're drafting.
Yeah.
I gave him a B+. I think Cedric Tillman, I mean, third round, 74th pick. I think a solid, potential guy that if you can stay on the field has, some big upside, with this size, 6'4", 200 pounds. I think Siaki Iku at, at 98 was a great pick. If you got some of these teams that took defensive tackles, like the Cowboys. I mean, Iku, you're looking for a guy that's going to stop the run. This is a guy that's going to stop the run that you ain't going to be able to move. He's an immovable force in the middle.
Yeah.
And then
I like DeJuan Jones. I thought that was a good value.
I like round. And the big thing with DeJuan is that you look at him and you go, it's either one or two guys. It's either you're getting Alex Leatherwood or you're getting Orlando Brown. And I would lean more towards the Orlando Brown side. I had him as my fifth, offensive tackle in this draft. And I knew he would probably drop because of that factor, the size, maybe a little slower than you would like on the edge, but you definitely ain't going to beat him with the power rush. And then I think getting Luke Whippler in the sixth round was a great pick.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I think they're doing a lot of the right things on paper, which is just crazy to say whenever you're talking about the Browns. They do so much wrong.
Yeah, let's see what they can do other than that.
All right, who else are we missing? We got the Steelers, and is that the last team we haven't done? Yeah, just the Pittsburgh
Steelers.
All right,
and here's my A+.
Whoa! Well, I mean, they got my boy down now, Washington, so I'm not surprised. I am not surprised.
They absolutely. I mean, when I said the Seahawks killed it, the Steelers absolutely murdered this draft.
Yeah.
I mean, they hit everywhere. You get your guy in Broderick. You jump ahead of the Jets to take the guy the Jets were going to take. You knew you had to move up to get him. You made that move to go up and get your guy. Then you get Joey Porter Jr., who a lot of people had going in the first round. I was a little, lower on Joey Porter, but I think second round, first pick in the second round is a great value for him. And then you get Keanu Benton, who reminds me a lot of Casey Hayward, and you get him to possibly replace Casey Hayward in the next year or so, and you at least gets to play alongside of him for maybe another year or two. Darnell Washington in the third round. I mean, great value. Nick Herbig, he was one of a big sleeper in this draft. A kid that can play either in the middle at linebacker, but can also, rush the passer off the edge. He had, I think 12 or 11 sacks this year at 6'2". Off the edge is a big deal, especially in the Big Ten. And then Trice was an incredible pick towards the end of the draft because I know, a lot of people had Trice as, a mid, third, fourth round pick. You get him in the 6th, 7th round. And then Anderson, I think, is a great, depth guy that you can either play guard or tackle. Yeah. And so it's a draft that I think they absolutely just nailed it. Hit, a lot of position of need and get your quarterback protection, help your defense out after losing a couple of guys, give them another tight end. Tight end is one of the, the best pacifiers for a quarterback, especially a young one. Man, you
and he got one who could block, catch.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm a little worried about, and at that point when they were drafting, like I love their pick so much, had it been an even better world, maybe one wide receiver with some high upside, just in case. But even with it, like you said, this was a great draft by Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I agree. You probably could have took a wide receiver there, but I mean, they seem to be really high on Calvin Austin, and I know it was a guy that they were big on last year with the speed upside, and you got Deontay and you've got Pickens too. So I mean, I think they're banking on Austin, taking that step next year. He was hurt all last season, so yeah, but absolutely killed the draft this year.
We're going to move on to what I'm going to say is probably one of the more boring divisions right now, the AFC South. So we're going to start with the Tennessee Titans, the team that has one of the worst rosters, I think, in football right now. They're not good on paper.
Yeah. They may be one of the most boring divisions in football, but they were one of the most exciting on draft day. I mean, the moves that the potential of what this conference could be if all these quarterback hit.
I know.
Which the odds aren't there, but man, if they do, you're talking about Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson all in one division. That could be, interesting in a couple of years, but I think the Titans did a great job in this draft.
Yeah, the fact that Will Levis day 2 was a steal, still was able to help their offensive line, which wasn't like a massive need, but a tackle, and you get Peter Skoronski was huge. Skoronski, Tyler Spears, I did like that, and I think it's smart to go early appropriately early for a backup for Derrick Henry because he is getting some miles on him, and you never know. And so a guy like Spears, we saw him shred that terrible defense in the Cotton Bowl, right? Cotton Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just absolutely blew it away. Yeah, I love it. It was a good draft.
I mean, I think they absolutely killed it. I gave him an A-. There's a few things. The one thing that I wish they would have done was take a wide receiver somewhere. I think
they did technically, but 7th round, UT Martin guy.
Yeah. No, somewhere's in the mid rounds. I think you could have taken a wide receiver, gave you some, at least decent upside, at least some depth. But Tyjae Spears was one of the guys I loved. They've talked like, they're going to move on from Derrick Henry, or they're trying to. Tyjae Spears, I think, is a guy that a lot of people, slider frame, so people are kind of writing him off. But the size is actually a little bit better than you'd think. Once you look at it, I think could be a really good pick. In a few years.
Oh yeah. What grade did you give him?
I gave him an A-.
Who are they the best in this division draft grade so far, or we got better coming?
I have one that's about equal value.
Okay. All right, we'll get there. All right, let's go ahead and move on now to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I wasn't as big on what the Jags did this year. I think they had a decent draft. I gave him a solid B. I liked Anton Harrison, especially with Cam Robinson going to be suspended this year, and potentially give you at least once Robinson come back, you got a really good right tackle. I said value-wise, I think getting Antonio Johnson and Parker 5th, 6th round was good value. Antonio Johnson was someone that a lot of people pictured going in the 3rd, 4th round, and same with Parker.
Yeah. Good draft. Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, I'm not as big on Tank. I think there's a lot of tread off those tires for Tank.
Okay. Well, we're going to end with this division with 2 quarterback-driven drafts as well, besides Will Levis. So we got the Indianapolis Colts, who did surprise, I think, a lot of people, and took Anthony Richardson. I think they were just drooling too much because they couldn't help themselves when they saw his athletic numbers jump off the page. But they go with him at 4. They didn't even have to trade up to get him or anything like that. But overall, what were your feelings on this draft?
So we know how I feel about Anthony Richardson. But they took their guy that they thought, was going to be their quarterback. So I can't fault him for that. I would have probably went Will Levis over him just because I think Will Levis has a better, future ahead of him. I gave them an A because the rest of this draft was just value after value after value. I mean, you get a guy like a Tommy Way out of Orr down in the 4th round when there was talks that he was going to sneak into the first, back into the first round. You get him, down there. I love Josh Downs. I think Josh Downs is a good, complement receiver to what they have in Michael Pittman and Pierce. I really think they did a great job, drafting this year. Besides, I mean, like I said, I would have swapped Richardson and Levis. Other than that, I think there's not much to complain about.
Well, what's going to be great is 5 years from now, we're going to look at this draft and see it's pivotal for some of these franchises. Either everything's going great and this is the best division in football because of the quarterback play, or you're looking at it and saying, wow, Houston, you guys messed up. Or, wow, you guys probably wish you would have taken Anthony Richardson and only the Colts are good. Like, this is going to be so much fun to watch over the next 4 or 5 years as these quarterbacks just develop into the systems in the NFL because they're all in the same division and we're playing each other twice a year. It's going to be fun. Gonna be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, definitely.
So now we got the number 2 draft pick overall. We got CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. Man, I loved it. It's hard. I don't know how you didn't. Maybe just what was left afterwards. But what did you give their grade? I'm curious.
I gave them an A. They were a team that I wanted to give them an A plus. And the only thing is, I love that they went up and got their other guy. You traded 12. The only thing is that you may have traded a little bit too much for it. You give up a 1st round pick next year. You gave up, basically the 1st pick in the draft this year or in the 2nd round for him, and you give up, 12. You gave up a lot of value, and that's the one thing. But a lot of people are like, oh, he has to be a Hall of Fame edge rusher to get there, and they're like, I just don't see it. I think when I watch Will Anderson play, I see Khalil Mack. And if he reaches that, he's a Hall of Fame edge rusher because Khalil Mack is absolutely a Hall of Fame edge rusher. And so that was one of the reasons why they didn't get the A plus. And then I wasn't huge on Juice Scruggs. I don't like. I think that there was maybe a better center there, John Michael Schmitz or something like that. I think has better upside. But man, they did a lot in this draft that I loved. Tank Dell, I talked about him. He was my favorite player in this draft. The route running, everything that he has, he gives gives Stroud someone to throw the football to, opposite of Mechie. And Henry To'o in the 5th round, I think is crazy. With some of the the linebackers that went ahead of him, this guy is the leader on your defense. A guy that I think DeMeco Ryans is going to love because he's got his quarterback in the middle of the defense that he can trust to be the leader. Instinctual player, high football IQ. He just kind of maybe lacking a little bit in the athletic department, but this is a guy that I think DeMeco is going to absolutely love on his defense.
Oh, this division could be the face of what it looks like to redo everybody off at the same time, or in the Jaguars maybe a year and a half early, but still,
yeah.
It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. I hope it turns out well because we don't have enough good quarterbacks in the NFL right now. So I hope.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's move on to the AFC West. No, yeah. What have we missed? AFC West and what else? That's it. Oh, okay. Oh, great. All right. Well, let's just say the best division. All right. I want to start with the Chargers because I felt like they had a lot of picks, but I didn't ever notice them. Quinn Johnson, I'm not sold on him. I don't know that he actually is going to go out and get the ball consistently. His catch rating on contested passes was not good enough for a guy of his size, in my opinion. Tuiasosopo, I'm not a fan yet. Maybe he gets better coaching and is better at the next level. But a USC defensive guy, I'm like, what are we doing? So I'm just not. I wasn't a huge fan of overall of the Chargers draft.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I gave him a B minus, and the only reason why it's that high is that you got a lot of potential factor here. I mean, if Quentin Johnson can fix some things, he could be a good wide receiver in the draft. I think Tuli, it's hard to really figure out who he is because the sack numbers, he leads college football in sacks, but how much was it due to competition being in the Pac-12, playing against some really bad offensive line factors into that. I think Deion Henley is a good pick. I like the versatility, a kid that moved to linebacker, and if anything, you got probably one of the best special teams players in the NFL draft. But in the third round could be a.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Wasn't a fan of the Darius Davis pick.
No.
Max Duggan, I don't think is a quarterback at the next level. I'm sure he can play backup, but I see him in the XFL, USFL for sure. But they do have 3 TCU players, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it was like it was either the first time ever or it was like the first time since forever that 3 of the a team drafted 3 players from the same college in one draft.
Yeah. And then your grade was B minus, right?
Yeah, B minus, just based off a potential upside.
Okay. Okay, I think that's fair overall. So we got the Denver Broncos. Got Marvin, because they traded for Russell Wilson. They don't have a first-round pick this year for sure. They got Marvin Mims, last pick of the second round, I think, and they got that from traded with Detroit, or traded with Kansas City, Detroit. Anyway, so Marvin Mims, Drew Sanders. Not a whole lot going on in this draft, but they addressed some of the biggest needs.
Yeah, I think that they hit a lot of value, great value. I love Drew Sanders. Another linebacker that I was surprised fell as far as he did, based off of absolute potential. He was my number 1 linebacker in this draft because of the potential of what he can be off the ball and on the line, because he had 9 sacks last year as a middle linebacker.
Good tackler too, and that's that's so hard to see these days.
And he's only played off-ball linebacker for 1 year. The potential is absolutely there. I love the Marvin Mims pick, and maybe a little biased because I'm an OU guy, but I gave him an A minus because I think they hit a lot of value, and the A minus is all based off of the Russell Wilson trade.
Wow. Fair enough. Yep. Yeah, I was not I'm not sold on Marvin Mims. I think he's good. I just don't know, is his ceiling a type of receiver stat wise of like a Hollywood Brown, or is it Sterling Shepard? Like, I don't know where he falls in the OU dynamics of pro receivers. We'll see. I hope he does well, just for OU's sake, but I'm not as huge a fan. But I did like Drew Sanders' pick. JL Skinner, I thought, was a decent late round pick out of Boise State. So, all right. We got the Las Vegas Raiders. F. All right, moving on. No, I'm kidding. Did you really? Are you leaning that?
No. We're not too far off.
Quarterbacks go. Aiden O'Connell. Liked him in college. I do not think he's an NFL quarterback. I think he's going to throw too many picks if he's in there. I like him. I just don't think it's good. Michael Mayer, they did get their tight end, who fell all the way to the second round, which I was surprised. So that was a good pick, but Byron Young, okay. So anyway, too early for him. But go ahead. Sorry, I'm stealing your analysis here.
No, you're good. It's basically what I was going to say. I think they missed pretty bad here. I like the Michael Mayer pick. The fact that he wasn't a first-round pick was very surprising, and I gave him a C, just to see. The rest of it, I wasn't big on. I mean, you take a guy in Trey Tucker from Cincinnati, that at that point was the lowest player taken in the draft, even lower than Jake Moody. A guy that shouldn't have been anywhere close to that 6th, 7th round pick at best. It was all based off speed. Same thing with Bennett from Maryland. It's all based off the speed. Guys that were drafted 2 or 3 rounds higher than they should have, they just absolutely missed on this.
That's a classic Raiders thing to do. Hey, we got speed. That's all we need to do is win. We got speed. So, yeah, I didn't understand that at all. I'm glad I wasn't the only one. And I for sure can be biased with them. So that's what I was worried about. And I was like, yeah.
No bias there.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the reigning champs. And before we do this, I want to get into some Twitter stuff. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to go down too far. But people on Twitter are like, stop talking, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and let the draft do the talking. And I'm like, hold up. We draft because we want to win a championship. If you win on draft day, that's nice. But when you win on championship Sunday, like actual Super Bowl Sunday, those ones, that's what matters. So anybody who is crying about all the Super Bowl winnings, get over yourself. The event itself was awesome. And the fact that it happened to be, I mean, next year it's in Detroit. All right. They're not winning the Super Bowl next year, but if they did, those players should have every right to say world champs and do all the things and bring out the trophy, because how often is that going to happen? All right.
Yeah.
People need
absolutely. I'll rub it in everyone's face. We won. You guys didn't. But
District champs. That's what that makes.
District
Classic. That's another high school story for another time, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Kansas City went with FAU, K-State defensive end edge rusher, day one, last pick. They took a wide receiver in the second round who was also running routes that they did not let it slip. It was very secretive about that, so I think they really had high hopes. Wanya Morris out of Oklahoma. I don't know. I'm happy overall with the trade. The draft. I don't think it's the best draft that I've seen in a while, but I think it addressed some of the biggest needs that they had. The one thing I was kind of hopeful for was maybe a tight end in this draft, just because it was so deep, and I think they could have done that later on. But overall, even Keandre Coburn out of Texas, I was happy with that in the 6th round. Interior defensive line, that was a need that they had. So I was happy with it.
Yeah, I gave them a B+. I thought they did a pretty decent job. I like Felix. I think Felix is a guy that a lot of people, the production dropped a little bit last year compared to the year before, but I think it was because teams were kind of focusing in on him more than, they had. Rasheed Rice, I think, is a great pick. The big question for him is, can he get the separation? He doesn't have the speed, but man, the hands. He absolutely has the best hands in this draft. And so he's not going to drop passes. You hit him, he's going to make the catch. I think Wanya in the 3rd round is a great pick, from Oklahoma. They have done a great job with Oklahoma offensive line. And I think that was a path that they knew. They know the coaching. They know, where they are coached. I think he could, probably immediately come in and start at right tackle for them and be a good, because we saw him get better at Oklahoma each year. And last year, he really you watch the tape, put on some pretty good tape, for him before he kind of got a little, nicked up, banged up there. But out of, I think it was 359 pass protections last year, he gave up 1 sack. So, I mean, for OU offensive line that wasn't great last year, him and Anton were the 2 bright spots on that. And so I think 3rd round was great. And you nailed it. I think Coburn was a great pick, one of the better picks, especially that late in the round. He reminds me a lot of Poona Ford. He came from, Texas, maybe a little undersized, but the guy goes in, he puts in the work, and could be a sleeper pick. After losing Jalen Saunders, you needed another, guy that can, have, decent pass rusher, but a really good run, defender in the middle of that defense.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love it. So in case you missed it along the journey, the best draft overall was the Pittsburgh Steelers, A+. The worst one overall, was it the Raiders?
No, it was, who did I have worse? Man. The 49ers.
Someone in the NFC, huh?
The 49ers.
The 49ers, yeah. So both those teams. So, hey, we'd love to know what you thought about this draft, what your favorite team was, and you can let us know. And the next live episode will begin Monday night at 6:30 Central Time. You can join us on YouTube. And guess what? We had plans to get into some more baseball talk, but you know what? This was an NFL episode. We went in depth. You got to hear one of the best minds in all of football when it comes to college or NFL with Tubby here. And so we hope you enjoyed the ride. We'll be back again next week. And if you didn't know this already, where can they follow us, Tubby?
Oh, so you got us on Instagram at d.w.podcast, or you got us over on Twitter at d_w_podcast. _podcast or the W Sports Podcast on YouTube. I mean,
that's all the places. Make sure you follow us, subscribe to the channel. We are excited to see us hit that journey to 250 where we're going to have another giveaway. We already had one signed NFL jersey for just subscribing to the channel. Make sure you do that if you have not already on YouTube. Again, just YouTube, the W Sports Podcast. It's super simple. And we appreciate everybody jumping in the podcast, from Quincy to Alejandro to Lakers fan. Man, we appreciate you guys coming to the show today and just making the show so much fun. Where we get to talk about sports. It's so much fun.
We got big plans in the next couple of weeks. We have a, not just figuratively, but physically big guest coming on in 2 weeks. I mean,
I'm gonna you can do the intro next week, I feel like. But yeah, we will be joined for a special guest appearance from someone who is going to be making a decision soon, not probably on the show, of course, but soon. Just going to talk to us a little bit about that experience, what it's like to be recruited in college football, especially the way it is these days. So stick around. It'll be here next week.
The week after next.
Oh, the week after next. Dude, I'm already losing track of days. That's all right. So in 2 weeks, that's happening. But anyway.
The 15th. Mark it on your calendars now.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Till then, guys, we will see y'all next week.
See ya.